Alright, what's up? I'm starting the video right now. I actually did film a video like a week ago. I think last week I filmed the video. But unfortunately, because like the way I was supposed to have parts all show up on the same day, so I was just gonna make a video installing those parts, but unfortunately I only made a video like installing one part and washing the car, and then I installed another part like 5 days later, and it like jumped around. It wasn't smooth, the continuity wasn't there, so I scrapped the entire video. But let's just sum it up real quick. So I was working on this car. This is my 03350Z. I installed this like roof spoiler, I guess. It looks pretty good. It looks kind of aggressive, like when you kind of come from the front area. But I think when you kind of look from the rear area, I'll open the garage here in a little bit and I'll show you guys. But from the rear area, it doesn't look too bad. I also installed like a carbon fiber style rear diffuser for the car, but it was on for like 2 days. The fitment was kind of off, and I think it's because my exhaust is like just the tip of it is like, you know, it's just a massive ass exhaust. It burnt right through it. I'll show you what I mean. It like, I was sitting in traffic and all of a sudden I smelled like a burning smell, and I was like, what the hell is that? And then next thing you know, I pulled over and yeah, the rear diffuser was on fire. I was just showing it off roughly. I was just showing like the incident, and like, you know, I was showing, because I didn't even do like an install video really of installing this. Kind of just did it at work, and I obviously don't really record when I'm at work and I install stuff, but I installed it and then I left it behind my I left it behind my Skyline, and I completely like fucking ran it over, and this piece is chipped. I think over here is chipped quite a bit. So I thought maybe like when I get my own house and everything, I'm gonna sit there, I'm just gonna put it like on the wall or something. It'll look good, like I kind of as a wall piece, because obviously I'm not gonna really use this anymore. Might buy a new one, but if it's just gonna have the exact same issue where it's gonna burn right through the fucking bumper, then I'm not gonna do it. But in today's video, we're not talking about the Z right now. We're gonna be talking about actually the Skyline. I've had the Skyline for over a year now, like a year and like 3 months or something. I don't really remember, but I got in 2020 of March, I believe, March of 2020, like right before COVID hit, like right before lockdown happened. I got the car, and I think I've had it enough and long enough now that I can actually go over a lot of the issues I had when I first got the car. I'm just gonna go over a lot of the issues that I think the importer messed up, and I think the importer definitely should have fixed for me. And like, no, I'm not gonna complain, because I got it when it was a 25-year-old car, so I'm not gonna sit there and think it's like gonna be a perfect car. But I definitely think there were some things that they said they did that they didn't do, and the things that like they said they couldn't do, and like it was a whole big mess. So I'm gonna pull the car into the front right now, like right in front of the garage, and we're gonna go off, and I'll let you guys know everything that's, you know, we'll start from the front, working our way back, and it just like, some of it's safety concerns, some of it was just kind of like you told me you would do it, and then other things were just kind of like, you know, I think they're just trying to sell me the car and get the car out of there, because once the car's out of their hands, they're just kind of like, you know, whatever happens, the car happens, you know. So this is my 94 Nissan Skyline, obviously. It's a GTST, so it has RB25, 5-speed manual. It's got a few goodies to it, but there's also a lot of things wrong with it when I first got the car. Everyone was just like, oh, I'm super excited for the car, I'm excited for you to get it, but there was quite a few things that really pissed me off about it. Luckily, like when I kind of like over the last year, I've like worked out all the problems and I fixed everything. So I've actually been driving the car for like a week and a half now straight, and it's like flawless. Like I've been doing that for a while, and it's flawless. As you can tell, these headlights are not bad at all. I don't know what headlights they are. There's like different series. There's like series 1, series 2. I don't really know them, to be honest. Like, you know, I've had the car for over a year and a half. I can kind of tell between the series 1 and series 2 cars, and obviously I can tell between the GTRs, because GTRs have the wider rear fenders, and I'm pretty sure wider front fenders too. When I first got the car, there was a whole big ass crack that probably went from here all the way here in the headlight, and I noticed it when I went to go first pick up the car, like when I kind of first went to go see it. And the importer told me, they're just like, oh, we have an extra set of headlights sitting around, and we can go ahead and swap them out for you if you want, if you buy the car. And I was like, oh sweet, that's actually a really good deal. I'd love it if you guys did that. And kind of like, I came back a few times. I kept saying, they said it like 2 or 3 times, like, because I went back and saw this car quite a few times. I told him, I was like, hey, can you put it on the lift? Can you do a compression test? Can you do a few things for me so I know this car is perfectly fine to drive, which it is. But every time they told me, hey, we'll swap out the headlights for you to like 2 uncracked ones that are just fine, so they'll look good again. Because one of them, the crack in the headlight would fill with water. So literally one of the headlights looked like it had cataracts, and it just did not, like, even trying to use the headlight, you can tell on that one side, it was way dimmer just because there was just a lot of just gunk and crap that was inside of it. Finally, it came to me picking up the car. The way that place works, you gotta put a down payment before you actually drive the car. And so I was still figuring out like the financial part of the whole buying the car stuff. So I just put a $1,000 down payment like they requested, and I did. And then after $1,000 down payment, I was like, okay, well, can you guys like get the car ready, because I'll come back in a couple days to pick up the car and everything. I was like, can you get the new headlight on it? And then at this point, after I did it, they go, actually, the headlights we have are for a sedan. And so I, at that point, was just like, oh, okay, well, that sucks, because I really need new headlights for this car. And that kind of sucked a lot, because they've literally told me 2 or 3 times when I was going there that they had a set of headlights. They could have checked, they could have made sure, but the sedan headlights and the coupe headlights are different. It sucks about the R33s because, like, I know that, like, literally they changed roughly everything on the car depending on between the coupe and the sedan versions of the car. Like, I'm pretty sure the coupe hoods, coupe fenders are different. The headlights are different. Like, a lot of shit is different between the coupe and the sedan, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I mean, oh well, I guess. So that was kind of like the first kind of red flag I had when I was going through the importer, where I was just kind of like, wow, you guys are a little shady on that part. Like, what the hell? You guys told me you would do it, but then now you're saying, you know, after I gave you money and everything, then, you know, you're saying that, like, you know, you're not gonna do it. And there's a couple other things they said they did not do, and that leads me to the next part, which is under the hood. So when I got it, it was a roughly stock RB25 DET. It had like a stock turbo, I had a lot of stock stuff, but also had some aftermarket stuff that really messed with me. One of which is that this thing kept blowing this portion of the intercooler pipe. It's the one that connects, because there's a little like 90 degree, and then there's a pipe down there. It's this pipe right here, and that bottom section right there would constantly keep blowing off. Because it had a stock coupler on it, so I replaced it with obviously a coupler that's a little bit longer. I never had an issue, and I kind of did another fix on it where it was kind of like, so if you think about like how it kind of comes through, you want it straight, but the coupler and the pipe was kind of like this, and so as the thing would kind of like, you know, flex and wiggle with the engine, it would, you know, just wiggle loose and pop out. Crazy enough, on the first drive, the first test drive of this car, I have video, it literally pops off, and the guy who was driving it goes, oh, that's a coupler. Then I told him to fix it, and so I was like, hey, can you like somehow fix it, like somehow make sure like there wasn't blown couplers and everything. He goes, oh yeah, sure. So they said they fixed it, and then literally the next day I was driving home from work in the car because I was excited. So I literally drove it for like, I think a week and a half straight without driving my Z. I was just put this in the garage, and like I was driving this because I was excited. I just got this car, and it blows the intercooler pipe on the side of the road on the way home, and I was hella pissed because I literally just had the car, like I just got insurance that day, so I was driving it, like I didn't have any tools in here, I didn't have anything. Luckily, I actually have footage of, there was a dude in a Pandem R32 GTSD that saw me on the side of the road, took the exit, got back on the highway, and came over to help me out. I think his name was Rory. Rory, if you're out there, bro, you were like the biggest. I think I mentioned this before in the videos, but like he's the god for stopping by and helping me, because if he didn't, I legitimately would have had to call. I was ready to call, like I had insurance. That was the first day I had insurance on this car, and I almost had, like, I literally almost had to call my insurance, like, hey, you're not insured the car that we just insured, like, a couple minutes ago? Yeah, I need a tow. So that would have been really, really embarrassing for me if I had to do that. What I ended up doing is actually, like, where there's, like, that little bottleneck that was kind of in it, I ended up just, shaving away at the hole a little more where it goes through the chassis on the car, and just make sure it doesn't rub on anything, make sure it doesn't, you know, there's no way of it popping off. And I've never had an issue since, and I even replaced the coupler too just to make sure, and I've never had an issue since. But that was issue number 1 that was fixed. It got really annoying. I actually did it like a few times. I went and picked up my friend, I picked up Ryan, and we went for the first drive in the Skyline, and literally the first drive it goes ahead and blows a coupler while we were on the highway, and we just stand on the side of the road and fix it. Luckily, Rory, when I blew the coupler the first time, Rory drove me to the nearest AutoZone, and I had to buy a whole toolkit because I didn't know what size I need. Like I didn't know if it was 8 mil, 7 mil, like what kind of like what the little nut on the coupler is. I didn't know what size it was, so I went and just bought a whole kit, and it's like that kit is still in this car to this day. It's literally like I have, Ryan knows and Ryan sees it, I literally have a kit, my coupler fixer kit, where in case the coupler blows off or this car breaks on the side of the highway and I need like a 8 to 13 mil socket set to fix it or something. I think it was just going too much boost or something, and it was just blowing the coupler, which brings me into the next part, which was this car, when I bought it, came with a Greddy boost controller, a Greddy Profit 2 or something like that. There's a solenoid right there. This thing was making, like, I think stock is 7 PSI, and this thing was making 14. And it's literally because after we blew the coupler on the test drive, I told the guy who was with me, I told him, I was like, hey, lower the boost, and let's see if that helps it, because if you don't lower the boost, it's gonna keep blowing couplers, obviously, like as you increase the boost on it. Ooh, car parts? Car parts? No? No? Okay, bye, sir. But I told them, I was like, hey, can you lower the boost? And they never did, actually. So that was kind of, wasn't really cool of them, I think. I asked them specifically, I was like, hey, can you just mess with the boost controller? I even called them when I picked up the car and I was leaving with the car. I was like, hey, did you guys mess with the boost? Like, were you able to actually like fix it and get like lower the boost down and everything? They were like, yeah, we got it taken care of. And they didn't at all. They didn't fix it at all. Another thing was the coolant and spark plug service. That dealer, like the importer went through, they guarantee that every car that comes to their importer, that they do the spark plugs and coolant service on, and I know for a fact didn't. What I pulled out of this, it's funny because we were talking to the guy and he was saying that like some people, like, you know, in other countries, like they put like the best fancy spark plug and then it's like the iridium ones or something like that, which you don't know. Iridium ones are kind of for the newer cars. The older stuff really likes copper, so I threw copper plugs in this and it like really helped. But I remember when I went to go swap the plugs, I thought maybe like they put some wrong plugs in it or like it just wasn't right. Turns out I don't think they did the plugs at all. They look pretty damn old in the car. They had some like iridium ones and they're gapped to 6 mil, which was not even like, it wasn't right at all. Like I wanted it to be gapped at a little bit bigger because I run a little bit more boost. I run around 10 psi, so it's not too much bigger, but it's still like you need to gap it a little bit bigger. People can argue all you want about the whole spark plug gap. I know this car, you know, an 8mm gap, it runs perfectly fine, it boosts hard, it's good, like it runs good. But I have pictures and video of showing like the spark plugs I pulled out of the car and like proof that, like, you know, there's no way they replaced them, because the guy literally at the dealership was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, we don't throw iridium plugs in any of these cars, we just throw some copper ones. And copper ones, if you don't know, are like 13 bucks for 6 of them or something like that. Like it's literally like $2 or $3 per spark plug. It's not that expensive. The coolant service too. The coolant service wasn't done because literally when I was doing I think I did either the bigger turbo or a coolant hose or something like that, I had to pull the coolant out of the car. When I drained it, it was literally like the wateriest, like just washed down coolant. It was like not even green anymore. It was like a really light green. And so it just told me that either they put like really shitty coolant in it, or they just probably like drained it, put water in it, and you know, sent it on its way. That's it for the front of the car. We're gonna move kind of, maybe there's like a couple more things I want to list off that was wrong with it that I brought it back. And let you guys know, I actually did bring it back for these issues to them, and they pretty much not told me to fuck off, but they pretty much told me like there's not much they can do. They were nice enough that when I told them about the headlight thing, I was like, hey, you know, you guys told me you were gonna give me new headlights, but you never did. They were nice enough to throw in these headlights for them. These were actually off one of, like, I think the shop manager's car, and so he pulled, because he just recently bought a GTST like right after I did, so he pulled these headlights off of his car and put it on mine. They look a lot better, and you know, the only thing I can really complain about is that they only put 2 bolts in. They only put that bolt in at the very top and that one. But I did see them for these issues. They didn't really want to help me at all. Another one was the tires. I drove this car for like about a week and I actually blew a tire on the highway, just because when I pulled into my shop originally, I noticed that the tire was roughly bald, like completely gone. But I still drove on it for a couple days. That was my fault. But I also think it's their partial fault for selling me a car that literally had no tires left, and like I had to replace all 4 of them just because I wanted to be safe. So obviously I threw on the greatest and best from Federal, the Super Street 595s. Yeah, 235 40 ZR18. The last one, which I think is like the biggest one and the most expensive one, is like the struts on this car, or like it's not coilovers, but they're like lowering springs on like some aftermarket struts or something, I'm not sure, but the bottom bushing on them is completely gone, like 100% gone, like just complete. Like when I say gone, I mean there's no rubber left in it. It's funny because I told them about it too. I was just like, hey, I think the bushings are gone, like you guys pull up in the car and check it out. Like, is there some kind of coilovers you have laying around your shop? Like, you obviously have hundreds of Skylines come through your shop, like, you know, a year. Like, you have to have something sitting around that you just throw in my car. And they didn't, unfortunately, and so they pretty much told me like, hey, we gotta figure out what coilovers are on this car, maybe we'll order some new struts for it or something like that. Which I like had, like, I was like, okay, I was willing to pay for like maybe half it or something like that. I'd pay for partial of it. I'd pay for new, you know, if you guys want to put new, they want to put like the new strut portion of the coilover on, no problem with that. But unfortunately, they're not coilovers. They're like just a regular like strut and spring setup that's not adjustable. But he pretty much told me that they didn't want to not they didn't want to fix it, but just like that I'm gonna have to get coilovers and stuff like that for the car, which I didn't understand because I literally bought that car. Like, I think I came back like a week after I bought the car. or like a week and a half, like after the tire blew and everything. I was just like, hey guys, like you can do something. Oh, and there was a couple other things. The car, like when you drive it, the steering wheel was completely off. Like it just needed alignment. And then also when I put the new tires on the car, it drove so better, because like on the highway the steering wheel would shake because I'm assuming the tires were out of balance. But after I put the new tires on, it drove straight. I did an alignment. All I did was tires and alignment, and it changed the car completely, which I feel like is a really simple thing you can do to a car. At their shop, they literally have like a tire machine and stuff, so even throwing on tires on this car, like some cheap ones, I think I paid less than $400 for 4 tires for this car. Like it wasn't expensive. You can mount and balance tires on this car and it would have been completely fine. But they just didn't do that, and they sold it to me with some bald ass tires. So I popped on the highway, and I can show you the strut, kind of where it's what I mean by like it's gone. Okay, that's a little better of a view. You can kind of see that like this whole lower section is like completely gone. It's some yellow, I don't know what brand that is, but it's like completely gone. But yeah, there was quite a few other things that was wrong with this car. That was just kind of the big things that really irritated me. One thing you don't expect about buying one of these cars is how much money you have to put into them right when you get it. Like I thought I could put some money into it as like some like aftermarket stuff, but I didn't realize how much money I need to put into for doing like just like tires and stuff. I do remember I had to put front rotors and pads on this just because they were literally toast. Like the pads, like at one point they were grinding on the rotor. Like I drove for like I don't remember how long, maybe 2 weeks. I had the car for like maybe 2 weeks, and I had to put some front rotors and pads on it just because like they started to grind really bad, which is another thing. I think it costed me like not even, I don't even remember how much it cost me. I went to my dealership and just ordered some from O'Reilly's, but it was literally like I think less than $100 to get front pads and rotors, and these are perfectly fine. Like they've been perfectly fine for the last year that I've had it. But I think that's gonna be it. I just want to make a quick video just kind of like recapping everything that was wrong with my Skyline, and maybe like just prepare you guys, like if you're wanting to buy a JDM car, or a car that's not from here, you know, you could buy it from Europe or Australia, because this one came from Australia actually. Someone, I'm assuming in 2005, I think that's what it says on there, but 2005 they like shipped over to Australia, and then from Australia to here now. So just a few things you guys need to watch out for. Look for suspension, look for aftermarket stuff. I really wish I would have bought a more stock car, but then on the other hand, like I got some goodies when I did. Like I got a boost controller, a turbo timer, like a few little goodies that would have been, you know, about $1,000, a little over $1,000 to get it all. But nonetheless, I'm still happy with the car. I completely love the car. I'm in love with this car. I will be. I plan on doing the plasma manifold and like a few other things to this car to really make it worthy for me. And then after that, I really want to do like a budget S13 build. Been really into S13s recently. I don't know, S chassis have really interested me recently, just because I know that like here in about 10 years they're just gonna be too old and people are gonna want them. They're gonna be like over 30 years old. So definitely want to get an S chassis soon-ish, maybe like next year, sometime end of next year I may try to get one. That's it. Go and like, comment, subscribe. I upload whenever I upload. I try to do once a week, but sometimes it doesn't really happen. Videos don't really end up, you know, going my way sometimes. And if you're gonna buy a JDM car, make sure you inspect the car, get a compression test, do a test drive, do everything you can to make sure you know that this car is gonna be fine for you driving, and don't end up like me and be stuck on the side of the road the second day you have it. Alright, that's it. Later.